Okay, now we're going to apply the twill tape around the lapel and the jacket front. So the first thing we need to do is draw on our seam allowances. Okay, again, because the canvas typically moves as you pad stitch, as you can see here how the wool has been exposed. It's not because I trimmed back the canvas or anything, it's because as I pad stitched the canvas to the wool, it moved, it shifted. So what I'm doing is if you think about it, we have 1/2 inch seam allowances, all right? So we need to trim out the canvas out of the seam to reduce bulk. But we're also going to trim out a little bit more because our tape is going to go right against the edge, okay? So if you have 1/2 inch seam allowance, we're actually going to trim out 5/8, so 1/8 more than a 1/2 inch. So I've marked these seams at 5/8. And this is just where I'm putting the tape, okay, the bias tape or the twill tape. I marked it at 5/8 and I'm carefully trimming it out now. Remember to only trim the hair canvas and nothing else. You do not want to cut into your wool, and also you don't want to cut into your pad stitching as well. So be very careful. Mark all your seams at 5/8 and then trim away. So you're going to trim away the canvas on the front of the jacket, and then you're going to trim, from the hem up, lapel, and then across the lapel to the neckline, as you can see here. Okay, don't trim anything else away yet. Okay, once we've trimmed away the hair canvas, we're going to apply our tape. Okay, so this is going to go right against the edge of the hair canvas we just trimmed away. All right, and you want to start right at your roll line pretty much. See how it's overlapping a little bit? I'm not going to be stitching it that far, okay? But I want to start it there. So I have a little bit of an overlap just to make it easier to control. And then I'm just going to start pinning it right to the edge of the hair canvas. All right, so remember we trimmed away 5/8 of an inch, okay? So that makes it so that when we stitch our 1/2 inch, we won't end up with our twill tape in the seam allowance. We don't want it to be bulky. So just carefully pin your twill tape, okay? When you have a corner, what you're going to do is just clip, not through it, but just to the edge, like I'm doing. I'm going to take one clip right here, and I'm just going like about 3/4 of the way through my twill tape, and that makes it so I can just turn it, okay? When you're applying your twill tape and pinning it on, you don't want your twill tape to be loose, but you don't want it to be so tight that it starts to shrink your lapel or your front of your jacket. You just want it to be, you want it to fit just right, okay? So make sure it's taut, but not so tight that it's like starting to ease your jacket or your lapel or anything. And just slowly and carefully pin your twill tape to the edge of the canvas. All right, once you get to the hem, you want to measure up from your hem. So if you have a 1/2 inch seam allowance there, I'm doing a facing on this, so I just have a 1/2 inch seam allowance. I'm going to measure 5/8 up, and then I'll trim that away so it doesn't end up in my hem. Um, I'll trim that away in a minute. Okay, so now we're going to again do the hidden slips or do the slip stitch here, and we're gonna stitch the twill tape to the jacket. All right. So again, just like we did with the tape that we had on the when we taped the roll line, we're going to do the same thing. We're doing a slip stitch. We're going to go down through all layers. Just grab a little bit of the wool and come back up. So you'll do this just like we did on the roll line. We're going to slip stitch both sides of our twill tape here. Okay, so go around, start on one side of it, go all the way from beginning to end, and then come back the other way and do the other side. And the whole time you're just catching you're going through all layers, catching a little bit of wool, and then coming back up. Okay, so the entire lapel has now been slip stitched on both sides. All right, I trimmed away at the hem as well. And notice that my twill tape is not passing the roll line either. Okay, it's all been secured down really well. So now what we can do is just give this a nice press with our iron. And then that will kind of help set in our stitches, get rid of any puckers there might be. We'll flatten everything out. And there we go. We've now pressed the twill tape that we just applied. Okay, so now one of the fronts of the jacket you're making, or both of the fronts, are now done. It's starting to look pretty good. And this is what it kind of looks like on the form right now.